Everyone, it's your favorite black single millennial mom, introvert, here with another weird topic. So, this morning I wake up. Actually, I don't know if I should start from last night to this morning. I think I'm gonna start from last night. Y'all, last night I was on Newsbreak going in on these people because I saw a news story where this woman with yellow hair, this black woman with yellow hair, you heard me correctly, she has yellow hair. She was coming home from somewhere at 2 a.m. and she got carjacked by some kids. I'm assuming black boys, because they're usually the ones that's doing that BS, having that crazy behavior. But yeah, so she, understandably was upset and scared and all that good stuff. So come to find out, the kid he got released and sent back home with the mother. I think they went to court, and the woman that was carjacked, she's a mother, I think she said, a hardworking mother. She's a hardworking mother, and she said that the kid basically was sent home after the court day was over with or whatever. And she said the child's mother did not speak to her, apologize, nothing. First of all, we all know when you have court and trials and stuff, usually people are not going to cop to the crazy. The child should have probably apologized. I mean, I really don't know what happened in the courtroom, but a lot of times lawyers will tell the defendants, do not say anything. You ever heard of you can plead the fifth. So you're not supposed to say anything because it can be used against you. That could be one reason why the mother did not say anything to you, because she did not want something to be used against her child and her, since everybody's trying to lock parents up. So essentially that's what happened. So the yellow hair lady basically said that she wants all parents to be held accountable when their kids do these kind of actions and put the parents in jail. So that's the new thing right now. Everybody wants to put parents in jail for everything. They want to put parents in jail when the kids skip school. They want to put parents in jail when the kid is carjacking them at 2 a.m. They want to put parents in jail for everything. This is America. Yeah, I really just said that. And actually, let me pull it up. Hold on, because I'm going to talk about this. I might as well be pulling it up. Hold on. Oh my gosh, y'all. So I just came to Newsbreak, the app, which I love, by the way, because I'm a complete news junkie. But I just came to Newsbreak, and the first thing I see is this article talking about concerned about the rise in carjackings. Here's what you can do. Yikes. Let's read this and let's see what they talk about.
Problem we talk a lot about here, carjackings in D.C. So far this year, there have been 912 carjackings in the district, and these thefts, which can become violent, sometimes even deadly, have a long-lasting impact. Our Leslie Moreno is talking with a woman who was carjacked 3 years ago. She says the incident changed her life, and now she's sharing her story to encourage others to be cautious.
I always think that it's going to happen again, so that's why I always stay vigilant.
Javeda Smith was carjacked in Northeast D.C. 3 years ago as she returned home from dinner.
Two guys were coming at me from either way, guns pointed kind of down, and the guy, told me, go ahead, give it up. He took my keys from me, he took my phone out of my hand, and he threw it.
The incident still haunts her.
I just had to go through therapy after that. I was scared to come outside at night for a long time. It robbed me a lot of my quality of life.
This year alone, there have been 912 carjackings, 77% of those involving guns. Just this week, 4 men caught on camera attempting to carjack a man on Wisconsin Avenue. The suspects discovered the Porsche they wanted to steal was a manual transmission. Unable to drive the car, the suspects drove away, pointing a gun out the window. Last week, an FBI employee was carjacked on Capitol Hill. D.C. police have only made 159 arrests, 65% of those involving juveniles. Recently, D.C. mayor said some kids, especially repeated offenders, need to be detained instead of going to shelters and going home.
Now with carjackings being how they are even in the daytime, it's mortifying.
Smith says she moved out of D.C. 3 weeks after the incident. She's encouraging others to be vigilant at all times.
I never have my keys in my hand, never have my phone in my hand. As soon as I get in the car, even before I put a seatbelt on, I am immediately locking my door.
DC police just released some tips for drivers to avoid carjackings. Never leave your keys inside your vehicle. Never leave your vehicle unattended. If someone tries to steal your car, don't argue and don't resist. Give them your keys. Try to get a good description of the suspect and their vehicle and get away from the area as quickly as possible. We'll have more of these tips for you.
This is the logic. So first and foremost, the government took the power from the parents when they said we could not whoop them or spank them because that's child abuse, right? Apparently your child running amok and having no boundaries and no discipline is not child abuse. So apparently my child being out at 2 a.m. because I have no control of that child anymore is not child abuse. And if anything, children beating up teachers and possibly the parents being afraid of them as well, apparently that's not child abuse either. So we don't care about parental abuse. That's not even a thing. And we don't care about teacher abuse either, I guess. So essentially America's saying let's coddle the children to the point of them being useless because they have no structure, no rules, no regulation, no guidance, no nothing. They can just do whatever the hell they want. They can talk to parents however they want to. They can talk to teachers however they want to. Teachers can't do anything to them. And no one can do anything to them, even the cops. The cops put them in jail for what? One night, and then they go home the next day. Actually, a lot of times they don't even do that much. Like, I remember my brother will get in trouble, and my mom, one time, she literally begged the cops to keep him there. She was a single mom. My dad was doing whatever. She was doing the best she could. She works nights. She has a life. She cannot be looking at her son's face 24/7 because chances are he was supposed to be in school or something. I don't know what he was doing. So she asked them, and they were like, you know, ma'am, you're the only parent that showed up tonight. That tells me you're a good parent. And they sent my mother back home with my badass brother. My brother is now, I'm 41, so 40, 39. He's 38. And he will tell you out his own mouth that he was a badass kid. Do you think he gave a shit that he was bad in his teen years? His brain's not fully developed. He's not being held accountable for anything he does. Do you think he gives a shit that he's like ruining his life and just acting stupid, completely stupid, making dumb choices? And even like his friends, he was hanging out around with the quote unquote rough crowd, the infamous rough crowd that every child seems to find. He was hanging out with them, and they gave him some weed to hold or whatever. And then of course that's when the cops happened to, I think they saw, I honestly think his quote unquote friends saw the cops coming up. They handed him the weed. I don't know, something like that. And he's not street smart. We grew up in the suburbs, so he just took it thinking he's helping a friend out, and then he gets in trouble because the weed is on him, even though it's not his weed. That's his story. He lies a lot, so I don't know. But the bottom line is, what do people expect to happen when people start locking parents up? So you took power. Everybody knows, who has any kind of sense, every parent will say, you do not allow parents to discipline their children as we need to. Some kids need an ass whooping. Some kids need to get spanked. Some kids are okay with just a timeout. Parents usually going to try everything, and that whooping is going to be like the last resort. But we're so fearful, just like everybody else is. We're so fearful of doing something that will have us lose our children that parents are just like we're not able to really discipline them. We may yell at them a lot, but some kids do not understand yelling. And you all know who those kids are because you were probably one of them. Everybody's an adult now and pretending that they were perfect angels when they were kids. Where were you? I don't know, because my life wasn't perfect. I was bullied. I was going through all kinds of shit. So I know your ass was bad when you were a kid. That's why everybody talks about teenagers like crap, because teenagers are a fucking nightmare. They think they know everything. They forget that you've been raising them all this time. They don't realize they don't know shit. And they listen to everyone but the parents. But everybody's in the comments telling parents that we're not raising our children. We're not doing any parenting. How the fuck do you know? Are you in my house now? Is anyone helping me raise my child but me? It's just me. I don't see anybody else anywhere at all. So now you're psychic and you can tell me what the fuck I'm doing with my child. So their next thing they want to do is, because taking a form of discipline away from pretty much everybody, schools, parents, everybody, and the cops, because the cops apparently can't lock them up. I don't know why they're coming home the same night that they held a gun to somebody's head. But now they want to double down with the stupidity and say, let's lock the parents up. So taking forms of discipline from parents, that yielded, what results did that give you? Worse kids, right? Worse behaved kids, right? Because we don't have control of our own children at this point. Because Big Brother and boomers and everybody else older than them voted for some bad policy, created some shitty laws, and basically saying we can't whoop our own kids if that's what the child needs. Obviously, parents don't want to whoop their kids. I don't know why this has to be a disclaimer, but everyone's so ignorant that it has to be a disclaimer. So basically, everyone's like, okay, we want you to now go to jail for what your child does. That might be like a vacation for parents, honestly. I'm so over this country. It is not even funny. It's not even funny. Like, people, if they continue to squeeze parents so thin, you will see everything get worse. Because parents are just going to give up. They're going to just give up. We're already stretched very thin. My generation of millennials, we had to deal with a housing market that crashed, COVID. Every fucking disaster known to man has happened in my adulthood when I'm trying to start my own family and take care of us and buy homes, whatever we need to do. We can't do it. We are squeezed out of the market. Now we can't discipline our children adequately. So they're doing a lot of stupid shit. So apparently I had children because I want them to grow up and carjack people and beat up teachers. That's what I had children for. That's everyone's like stereotype of black mothers, I'm pretty sure. Even though there's other kids doing bad shit too. Like, somebody was like, oh, let me guess, they're black. Yeah, because white kids are such a prize. Asian kids are so great. Indian kids are so well behaved. Say, no, you're just highlighting what black kids do. That does not mean the other races of kids aren't doing things that are just as bad, if not worse. Because I see them on the shows. I see the cases. But the bottom line is, locking parents up is the new stupid thing. And I mean, even my kid's boomer grandmother was saying it. She votes Democrat religiously, no matter how shit the policy is, how bad the laws are. She doesn't care. It's vote blue no matter who up in this piece. So she was like, lock the parents up. You're saying that because you're old as hell now and your kids are adults, but your kids were bad too. They're bad now as adults. They smoke weed. They're not perfect. And you're sitting here like expecting parents to be perfect because we had to follow the laws that you voted for when we were children. Then we got older and we didn't even know how to vote properly. So I didn't even vote for quite a few elections because no one taught me. No one taught me it was important. No one taught me how to do it strategically. I had to teach myself and learn from other Gen Xers and millennials from YouTube. So now everyone's just like saying lock us up, lock the parents up, because it's like, where is the common sense in that? So when you lock, I don't even want to ask y'all because everyone's so dumb nowadays. Like, it's just like disgusting. Like, the stupidity is like unbelievable. I feel like I'm literally being punished for something. Like, why am I living in this hell? But the child, is the child getting locked up as the parents? Are we both getting locked up at least? Or is the parent just getting locked up by themselves? Even though they had no clue what their child, we didn't know what our child was doing. I can promise you that. Most parents do not have any clue that their kid is out at 2 a.m. putting guns in people's faces. And I, as a suburban mother who most likely will never have to deal with this, I'm still going to say, what would that do for the rest of us if the parents, well, we really know it's going to be mom because dad has been ran off and he's totally exonerated from any responsibility of the child he helped create. So we're not locking him up for abandoning an entire human being. We're going to instead lock mom up because she's too busy working to raise said human being and does not know where her child is because she's either at work or she's sleeping. God forbid she gets a fucking nap. And so we're essentially locking moms up because we know these kids are usually coming from mom. But the kids like this can also be coming from a two-parent household because my child is a testament to that. He broke his neck trying to get into the hood with all the other kids. Look at T.I.'s son. Who didn't just see him acting a fool? Is this news? Like, kids, it doesn't matter how you raise your children. They're going to try to be in the culture that they think is cool because they're children. They're stupid like a lot of the adults are. They're not smart, but for them, at least they have an excuse because their brain's not fully developed. Adults just dumb to be dumb. So you're basically going to lock up, I'm assuming, because we don't like to do anything, we don't like to raise our kids in America. Americans do not like to raise kids. They like them to run amok. So I'm assuming you're going to be locking the mother up. So that child that was bad is going to continue to be bad. And then all the other kids that she has that were, at home minding their business, they're now free to follow in their older siblings' footsteps freely because mom is gone. So yeah, take us away, and dad gets to be free to make more badass kids that he's not going to raise. Like, is any of this making sense? And then I had this guy lashing out at me. It was a guy or a woman, I don't care. Some adult, just lashing out with real vitriol against kids. And how, I forgot what he said, but I was like, wow. First of all, so you were never a child. You were perfectly behaved. One, you were never, let you tell you was never a child. Two, if you were a child, you were perfectly behaved. Three, you don't have any kids. Is what you're probably pretending. You don't have kids, or you're not. You probably have kids you're not raising if you're a male. 4, you're saying that you listened to your parents when you were a teenager and your kids listened to you when they were teenagers. That's what you're also saying. So it's like, throw the parents under the bus right now, who's having the hardest time ever already with the shit economy, crappy laws, shit public school system. Everything's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Because on top of me dealing with that news and having to hear people push for parents to be getting thrown in jail to be quote unquote holding the kid accountable. How are you holding parents accountable for something we didn't do? I'm not out there at 2 a.m. with my child carjacking you. Chances are I'm asleep because I'm old and I'm tired and I'm working and I'm providing for my family. Just like your ass was asleep. And the woman that had yellow hair that was out in the street, she's part of the problem. The culture that's ratchet as hell, that's what our children are copying. So your yellow hair is part of it. We can look at you and tell you're ratchet. Why do you have yellow hair on your head? It does not come out your head that way. And yeah, you're going to be feeling some type of way. But that's your problem. You want to judge us and you don't know me? I can judge you. You have no clue where your kids are because you were out somewhere till 2 a.m. in the morning, claiming you were working. And I'm supposed to give you the benefit of the doubt that you're telling the truth. But while you're out and about at 2 in the morning, where are your children? Do you know? You're assuming they're home asleep, right? Because I'm pretty sure the other parents of this child is doing stupidity is thinking the same thing. But let's just pretend for 2 minutes that our country is not stupid as hell. Let's pretend that our government is not as dumb as a box of bricks. The way this can all be fixed is parents need to be able to raise their kids as they see fit. So that's the first thing you want to do, is allow parents to discipline as we see fit. Get out of our houses, get out of our business, go sit down somewhere and go mind your own business. No matter where the parents doing what they got to do to raise their child. Get out of my face. And I told the CPS person that came to my house, I was like, unless you want to raise this child, get out of my face. My son was bad. Even with his dad and me, 2-parent household, he was bad as hell. So stupid. It's like the government is a joke. Trump was our president, and how many cases is he facing right now? Biden is in office, and his son is a whole crackhead. Bill Clinton was in office, and he was getting head from somebody other than his wife. I mean, come on. But you expect children to be better behaved than the adults. Okay. So that's the first issue, is wanting to lock parents up. The one parent, most usually is going to probably be with the one parent. But I'm going to tell you right now, like the little boy that took his gun to school, I think he shot a teacher or whatever. He had 2 parents. So it's going to probably sometimes be 2 parents. Y'all going to be surprised who they're going to be putting in jail. Because you think you're smart enough, you think you know who they're going to be putting in jail. But you're going to be real surprised who's really going to be in jail. Because you may not like it. It may be the wrong race for you. It may be the wrong genders going to jail behind their badass kids. Just want to let you know. And then when you lock the parents up as well, the kids who are left behind, they're not going to have parents to raise them. So be prepared for that. Because if you're scared now, with parents trying to do our best to raise kids in a country that took all power away from parents and stay in our business with every little thing we do, trying to tell us how to raise our kids. It's like, if you want to raise because I already grew up seeing Jerry Springer and all those like weird Dr. Phil or whatever. I would see those shows, and white people would try to say, oh, if you whoop the kid, they're going to grow up and learn about, no, they're not. They're going to learn about violence when I don't whoop them. Because I remember seeing a lot of fat white kids beating up on their parents. I used to see, there was like a series on IDTV where the parents, I forget what it was called, but the children were in the house scaring the parents. The parents were scared of their kids. We're not doing that over here. I will never be scared of my own offspring. It's just not going to happen. I have common sense that no one else has. So I'm not living that life. So if you want to take my child away because you think I'm a bad parent, go for it. Have at it, raise him. Because you're not going to tell me what I can and cannot do. And you're not going to undermine. You're not going to undermine me in front of my child and have me lose the power that I should have over them so I can raise them adequately and think that's going to be okay. No, you're going to take this child and you're going to raise him. And when I told this little small, petite, social CPS worker that that's what she was about to do, she was like, no. She didn't have no kids either. She ain't had not damn bit of kid, but you in my face telling me about how to raise my black sons in this racist country. You've got to be kidding me. Of kids obey thy parents, you need to take him. And she did not. She ran off, and we never heard from her again. We never heard from them again. And we continued on minding our business, raising our bad son, because that's what we have to do, because we're his parents. But when he turned 18, we were high-fiving each other. And he was out in the streets just like he always wanted to be in this make-believe life, because in his mind that is not fully developed, that was the best way to go. Then once he ended up in jail, next thing you know, we had to call down there because being parents, we were worried. Is he okay? Blah, 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 blah. Once they found out he had good, decent parents, they let him leave jail, but he had to be released to us. And I'm like, oh, now we're important again. because I couldn't even get a copy of his birth certificate because he's 18. But now suddenly you need us. So now you want to have him come back to us if you release him. You know why? Because we're doing your job. We're keeping him under control as his parents. So when it benefits you, now we have some power. He was not even trying to come home, if you really want to keep it a bug. Like, he was trying to still hang out with friends, and because they did not answer the phone or something, and I think that was God protecting him too, because those same quote-unquote friends were soon threatening to kill him. They were doing these veiled threats. They were calling my number, calling his number. He was scared. And we were all scared, because I'm like, are they going to come shoot up the house? I mean... The address, and actually, honestly, he had actually put my younger kid's father's address because he didn't want us to know how bad he was being out in the streets. So he put, I don't even know how he knew his address, but he knew it. Kids always know something you're supposed to know, whatever. But he put his address, and I was worried because my younger children were with their dad for the weekend. And I'm like, please, these people do not go up there and shoot the house up or something. Then, come to find out, because, like, basically my ex-husband talked to them. You know what I mean when I say he talked to them. And they basically ended up apologizing and left us alone. But because of that fearful moment, my son learned, I think, that day. Because sometimes you got to fuck around and find out. He effed around and found out that his family is really the ones who has his back always. The life he was leading, he's really not about that life. His car had been repossessed, and he didn't have any government documents. So he was like an illegal immigrant. He was like an illegal alien up in America. He had no birth certificate because he left it in his car because he's irresponsible. So he left it in his car whilst he was running the streets. And I had to go to court with him to help him, to show my face, my good upstanding self, to help get my child out of the trouble he created for himself. And when I tell you he did everything in his power to ruin his life, he was doing everything in his power to ruin his life. We kept trying to save him from himself. Was not happening. And I'm not saying coddling. We were just trying to be parents. I mean, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing. We signed him up for college. He dropped out twice. We taught him right from wrong. We helped him. He was living with us rent-free. Could have just got a job. It's like, no, none of it was good enough. 2 prior military parents, veterans. Nothing would have got him to behave. This is the same child who took a knife to school when he was in middle school. No, sorry, he was in elementary school. And the school worker, the administrator called, I want to say it was the principal. And we had no clue. How would we know that he's put a knife in his pocket or took a pocket knife away? And of course people could say, oh, the parents, they're the worst. We're supposed to know what they're doing 24/7. Yeah, that's realistic. So of course, we have been telling them, stop taking our stuff. Do not touch things that aren't yours, because they were always in our stuff. And somehow he got access to a knife, pocket knife that I guess was my husband's or whatever, and he ran off to school with it. What husband doesn't own a pocket knife? Yeah, okay. So he ran off to school with it without us knowing, obviously. No one gives parents the benefit of the doubt. And we got a call again. Like, what parent wants to go through this? I don't know. So we're minding our damn business, doing what we're supposed to do for our children, which means be at a damn job to make money so we can pay the damn rent on these expensive ass houses. But anyways, so we're, at work like we're supposed to be, and we get another phone call about our badass son. And you don't want to label your kids, but he's older now, so he can get over himself. And when they're bad, they're bad. So, I mean, the whole time he was growing up, we were trying not to tell him he was bad, but he was bad. And we probably should have told him his ass was bad. But, all the research and studies, you don't want to tell him something because then they're going to internalize it and whatever. Man, I miss 80s parenting. It was so much better. So realistic. And, like, all this fake shit is for the birds. So, anyways, the principal called, and he was just like, He was like, because you all are who you are, we're going to let it slide. We're going to send him home. And I forgot what they did, but it was nothing, nowhere near close what they were supposed to do. And the only saving grace for his little narrow tail was his parents. Because we're law-abiding veterans who are working. I was literally a whole federal contractor. And so was his dad. We're working still for the government. The thing that would fix the problem with the children that are not all right is the culture. Americans in and of itself are very rude. We are crass. We are everything that Donald Trump was. The racists are like Donald Trump. Everyone else is like the rap music. I mean, we're just people watching Love and Hip Hop. All this stuff that shouldn't even be allowed. And it's crazy because you would think that adults would have the common sense to say, like, I don't need to be consuming this because this is ignorant or childish or whatever. But nope. You got 50, 60-year-old people on TV fighting each other in ball gowns. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You look at any other country, like, are they allowing all this? I don't even know. Then the gun control is non-existent. So kids don't know how to do shit else, but somehow these black boys who won't take their black ass to college can sit in a basement and create guns with a 3D printer. My background, college and professional, is in IT, and I do not know how to create a gun with a 3D printer. I have no clue. I'm pretty sure I can find out. But why would I want to? Why do they want to? They don't want to go to school. They can't sit their ass down and go to college. But they can figure out how to create guns with 3D printers and have them out on the street as ghost guns. Isn't that fun? Then you turn on the music, and 20 years ago, you couldn't say half the stuff that you can say today on the radio. Make it make sense. But it's the parents' fault. We don't listen to the radio. And I have forbidden my kids from watching BET in my house. I'm trying to do everything. Like, it's sad that in order for me to properly raise my children so they don't go out and carjack people and kill people and beat up people and steal from people and commit all kinds of other crimes, is I have to literally reject everything that is allowed in our society. Why is anyone allowed to consume that junk? Why is anyone allowed to consume that mess? Adults, other children that don't have parents that are stopping it. Like, why does anyone in America have access to the crazy? What is the point? What's the benefit? Is it fun? Let's go do some Molly. Let's go be high all the time. Let's go kill each other. Like, why is this a thing? I used to listen to nothing but gospel radio, and then I started listening to Bloomberg radio. And I rather enjoy it. And that's what I listen to with my kids. If I turn on music, it's my own playlist that I put together. And it's typically going to be clean, good R&B, not the ratchet stuff. And it's going to be like 80s, 90s music. And that's it. I don't know what the new rappers are and what they're doing. I don't know. I don't care. I don't care. So the parents are not all right. The parents are not all right. And that's bad. And now you want to throw us in jail on top of everything else we're already fighting against to try to keep our kids safe, to try to raise productive human beings to go into society and be an actual asset and not another liability on the system. We are exhausted. And the parents are not all right. The kids are having a time of their lives. They're not being held accountable for anything, so they're fine. They are fine in their eyes. We're the ones suffering because we are not raising them properly. And I don't mean we like the parents, I mean we like the entire country. And the reason, and like, no one's being held accountable. The government's not held accountable for their shit laws that don't work. The NRA and all them people, they're not being held accountable for letting guns just be all over. Just all kinds of gun policy. Everything that's happening with these guns is out of control. Doesn't make sense. I'm a military person. Why do you need an AK-47 in your, like, why? I honestly believe that every young adult, time they turn 18, should have to serve two years in the military. That's what they do in Holland, I think, in France. You want an AK-47? That's fine. Sign up for the military. We will issue you one. We will issue you an AK-47, and you can go to war and be productive. Stop being a waste and a drain on society. And speaking of that, so now my child, who is finally calming his ass down and going to sit down somewhere, because I guess he realized this shit is not a game. He's one of those kids that has to learn shit the hard way. So now that he's realizing that this is not a game, this is real life, this is not Grand Theft Auto, or a movie, or a rap video. Like, I'm literally was about to get killed, and my brothers about to be killed over some stupid shit that I did, some senseless stupidity that I was engaging myself in that I had no business being a part of, because none of us are living that life. We don't know that life. We don't live that life. I didn't grow up. Nobody. He is so far removed from the hood, it is not even funny. Literally, the only thing he knows about the hood are rap videos and movies that glorify it. That's the problem, is they make it look like this is the best thing ever. I don't know how he's looking at that and determining that is the best thing, but the reality is a lot of kids, especially black boys, like, even with the father in the house, they will look at their dad like, you're a dork. I want to go do what that gangster's doing because he has the power. When in reality, no, your father is more powerful than that so-called gangster, because your father's not getting locked up for doing what he does for a living, versus that gangster will, or he'll end up dead. So that was his wake-up call, and now he is finally behaving. I can't tell you how many court appearances I had to go to with him to get and they already knew they were going to do it, but I mean, they just dropped everything, all the charges. He was facing like felonies, multiple felonies. And now he's still having a court case for this misdemeanor that he's trying to get rid of. And through all of this, he still was trying to not take accountability either. It was everybody else's fault that he's fucking up his life. 18 years old, so he's grown. Not thinking about no accountability. It was our fault that he was out the house for 3 months. It's like, who walked out the door? You did. Why was he even confined to the house? Because I told him that's it. We said like you can only go to school and work or something like that. I can't remember, because he's in our house still, so we have our rules. And you might ask, why would you tell an 18-year-old? Because God forbid we parent. But anyways, you tell us to parent, but then when we parent, everybody's in our business how we're parenting. Please get out my face. So you probably asking, why is an 18-year-old being confined to the home? And it was because he was smoking weed he was coming home high. He was no longer working. He was pretending he was working. He was doing DoorDash. And his dad, because we are great parents, he was monitoring his DoorDash account and was noticing there was like no real money being made. So we figured that out. Like, okay, so he's just like out there in the streets goofing off, essentially, and pretending he's working. He was supposed to be paying rent. That's laughable. He never had enough money to pay rent. So that wasn't happening. And wow, I mean, it was just awful. He was also snuck this girl in the house, and she smelled of weed or something. So it was crazy. It was really crazy. And it's been a long year, okay? I'm grateful that we are such great parents that while he was running the streets for like almost a year, he did not do any bodily harm to anyone. Prayerfully, he did not get anyone pregnant because we don't have time for that. And, you know, we had a real honest conversation with him. And I was like, you're going in the military because you're not ready for college. I was there. I knew at my little age, when I was his age, 20 some years ago, that I was not ready for college because I was tired of school. That happens. It's fine. I was an overachiever. I was sick of school. I needed a break. So I went into the military first, and then I went on, when I got out, I went to college, and now I have an MBA. And I did that so my children could see if mommy can do it, even as a single mother at some point, then I don't have an excuse because I don't even have any kids, they are definitely hands down getting way more support than I got. And that's not shade to my parents. They did an excellent job raising us, but black boomer parents didn't care. They will kick your ass out at 18. You got to find something to do. Like, they couldn't get you out the house fast. You got to go find something to do, whether you're either going to college or you're working. So I took myself into the military because I wasn't ready to go to school yet. And despite the fact that we've been asking our son over and over, like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want? Because his college is paid for, y'all. 100% from both parents. It is paid for. You might be like, oh my God, yeah. And I'm telling my story because I know there's other parents out there like me. I know we're not an anomaly. I know we're not. There are parents that are law abiding, especially where we live in the DMV. Child by, like, the majority of the government I want to say the majority of the government workforce are black people. So there's a lot of black prior military, law-abiding government parents trying our best to raise these kids, and we have everything working against us. Everything. The government doesn't support us. Other citizens don't. If they don't have kids or their kids out there, they just completely don't care about the fellow American. They do not care. Extremely selfish country. Everybody's being raised to become narcissists. It's disgusting. And you're not going to be successful when everyone just thinks about me. It's not going to work. You can't be a healthy society where everyone's just me. I'm a narcissist. It's all about me. How's that working out for us? Not so great. We saw that through COVID. People still didn't learn from COVID. That's how ignorant everyone is. No one had health care coverage. So people walk around coughing, getting people sick and shit. Like, no one, it's like COVID ended, and of course, I already knew everyone's going to go right back to their stupid life the way it was. They learned nothing. But we sat down with him when he came back, and we just told him, and he was like, for some reason, I feel like, honestly, he was trying to be a typical black American boy, a little young thug. He was trying to be a little thug, and we weren't having it. Because he has gone through every phase that's so predictable. He's very predictable, predictably, just so predictable about, like, following the crowd. It's very disappointing because we're leaders. It's like you can't be following everybody running. You have to have some discernment. You have to know when people are making bad choices and it's not going to work out for you to do that with them. Like, use your brain. So yes, very disappointing because we actually have his younger brother is actually more mature and more intelligent than he is. Like, he is like, if you could have a perfect child, he was that child. We don't tell him that. We don't tell our other son he's bad. We don't say it because we're good parents, but we're thinking it. Every parent knows when you got a badass kid that don't want to listen, and you know when you got a good one. And it's not to say either one of them is a favorite, because I don't do the favorites crap. But I'm not stupid. I can tell when one child is a well-behaved child and one is just bad. And I'm not saying either that he can't grow out of it, because he can. We've all been wild. Not as wild as he was doing and some other kids, but we've all had our teenager streak where we were trying to have, just trying to have some freedom, trying to show the world that we're grown when we're not. And what's that saying? If you don't humble yourself, life will do it for you. Okay, so yeah, we all had our wake up call, our humbling experience, or we had to come on back down to earth and act like we had some sense and tell our moms and dads that we love them and we're sorry for showing our whole tail, our whole ass through the teen years. Because I know I showed my ass all over, and my mother and father put up with me, and I'm so grateful to them for it. I don't know how they did it, because I was bad, as most American teenagers are. So you just hanging in there by the seat of your pants and trying not to like lose it, like. And that's another thing people don't talk about. Parents are traumatized. I didn't even think about that word until my ex-husband said it after we finished, like our son was like now an adult. That last year traumatized us. We're not the same people we were once before. It's just raising him has been one trauma after another. I mean, you literally never got a break. It would be like, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this. It's just exhausting. And it's so weird. Like I was saying, his younger brother, younger than him, has better sense than him. Like his younger brother never, my second child, he never follows the crowd. He knows when something's just not the way it should be. He knows right from wrong. So does my oldest child. His brother knows it too, but he doesn't care. He thinks it's cool to break rules. I mean, I don't understand this mindset, but he's doing whatever. He's pushing his boundaries, whatever. And we're constantly having. I mean, I remember one time they were walking to school, and my oldest son had friends, these badass friends. These are the ones he was just running the streets with recently. But this was in middle school, and I think they gave him an e-cigarette or something. So he's smoking that, looking crazy. But my youngest son was not my youngest now, but at the time he was our youngest child. So my second son, he was walking to school with him, but he was walking in front of him. He did not smoke the cigarette with him. And then I think we got another call from the school, yippee, that our son was walking to school and, smoking an e-cigarette. So we had to deal with that. So isn't that fun, And, people may blame parents, even though neither one of us smoke at all. Like, we don't do anything. We don't do drugs. We don't smoke. Even if we did smoke, okay, I'm sure we would be teaching our child not to smoke. He's a whole kid. So why are you smoking? But we don't even smoke for him to be trying to smoke. We don't drink. I mean, I think that my ex-husband drinks socially, but it ain't in the right home about. He does not drink enough for it to matter. I don't drink anymore at all. And I remember my mom used to say, kids will drive you to drinking. But I got a psychiatrist instead. I was like, I can't do the drinking thing because it was getting out of control. And I had to clean myself up and act like I had some sense so I could finish raising my children to have some damn sense. And so now he's doing well so far. Let me knock on wood that it continues. And, but I share my story because I know that people think the children who are out carjacking, they just assume their parents that aren't raising them, but the parents probably are. And I really appreciate the few comments I see in the comment section that's saying that no, sometimes children can come from a two-parent household and be bad as hell. It's not always the parents, is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes it's a child. And if you really want to turn this carjacking thing around and the beating up the teachers BS and all that, go back to the way things were, please. Please go back to the way things were. Because if you have teachers coming online on TikTok and saying that teaching was not like this 16 years ago, it was so much better, that means something was working. Something was working that isn't working now. Something's not working now. Something is broken now. So 16 years ago, teaching was what do you call it? Enjoyable. And now not so much. What changed in that time period? Besides COVID, it's got to be the fact that parents can't discipline their kids anymore. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, how much time out can you give a child? Do they even care? It's just ridiculous. But I think, because when the teacher was trying to say this, I'm like, okay, 16 years. I was in school. I graduated like 20 years ago. So basically, the 16 years would be like when my children were growing up. My oldest children. So basically, like, it's not really, I don't even know if it's really the Gen Zers. Let me see when Gen Z's birthdays are. So I really have to know this. I have a feeling that I know what it is, but I just want to make sure. So Gen Z, their dates are... Okay, 11 to 26 years old is Gen Z. So say it's from 1997 to 2012. Okay, so a good amount of Gen Z is already out of school. So that means from age 18 to 26. So almost 7 years. There's 7 years worth of them, I think, being in school right now. So they said so as of 2023, the Gen Z age range is anywhere from 11 to 26. So when school was bearable to teach in, like if you actually enjoyed it, these generation, that was the kids we were raising. Those are my older kids I was raising when school was bearable. Now they're both out of school. Like my 17-year-old is in college. We homeschooled both of them anyway. We took them out of middle school and we homeschooled. But I'm just trying to get like an age range for you all, like give you an idea how things changed and why stuff is happening the way it's happening. But like, my children are both out of school now. My sister's kids are out of school. They're like a little bit older than my kids, like my nephews and niece. My niece is still in high school. She's going to be, I think this is her last year. So basically, teaching was okay, essentially before COVID. Yeah. After COVID, it was like, all bets are off. And then, so yeah. And I'm not, so it's like, okay, things are just kind of getting more out of control recently. So you get to see, like, what is changing, right? Is it because of the lack of resources, money? Like, what is changing right now that's making it hard to parent? That's making it, because it's like, it would benefit people more to support parents and try to come up with a real solution than to act out of emotion, which America's really good at, and make more bad decisions that's going to further impact our country as a whole. So instead of saying, let's throw the parents in jail, which is extremely stupid. The only reason why you should be putting parents in jail is if they literally were right there with the kid, like helping them commit the crime. Like if I gave you a gun or gave you access to a gun, then put me in jail. If I drove you to go sell drugs to somebody, put me in jail. Like, if I'm around actively joining in, like, this should be common sense. Because that's called being a whole accomplice. Like, if I'm with my child. So, like, back in the day when I was a kid, when kids cut up, if they did something, depending on how egregious the crime was, they would be treated as adults. I don't really recommend that just because the adults are adults and they're really crazy. Like, they're 20 times worse than the kids because they're big. Like, they're muscular. They can do so much more damage. They're a lot more corrupted and perverted, whatever. So, because of that reason, I would say no, do not put young teenagers, as bad as they are, they will never be worse than the grown-ass people that's breaking the rules and committing crimes. But when I was in school, they used to put the bad kids in juvie, the juvenile detention center. We called it juvie. And then they would stay there until they became adults. And they would put them in prison. Because if the crime was crazy, like if you're doing an armed carjacking, an armed robbery, an armed anything, your ass need to be in prison for a long time. That is not a joke. You literally could mess up and hurt someone. People are killing people over the most ignorant things ever. And there's two things that's going on there. One is it's too easy to access guns. And two, the punishments are like child's play. Like, they don't get in trouble. They know. I even knew, and I don't even commit half them kind of crimes. I even knew that if I did something at under 18, I was not going to really get in a lot of trouble. Kids are aware of this. And that emboldens them to be more wild because they're like, shit, this is the time to do it. You know, I can't really get in trouble. This is the time to really wild out and really try to get it, just do whatever I want because there's no real rule. So obviously, what does that mean? That means that children should be getting some real penalties in school and in the world, like while they're just out and about outside of school. If you're in school, you need to be sending them to the teachers, to the principal's office. You need to be giving them detention. You need to be, what's the other thing you used to do? I mean, when they're little, where is the timeout chair? Like, we used to have recess taken away, which I don't really totally love that idea because now the child's even more hyper. They really need to burn that energy, but hey, you do what you gotta do. My teacher used to, when I was in kindergarten, she used to put an apple on the tree if we cut up with our names on it. And if you had 3 apples, I can't remember if it was by the end of the day or by the end of the week. But like, okay, so pretty much it was, I don't even remember like if it was by day or week or what. But I remember when I got 3 apples, I could not have recess. And we also got paddlings. I think I took a kid's snack cake one day because my grandmother was taking care of us. My mom was overseas working in the military herself, like I told you earlier. And I took this kid's like Debbie snack cake or something because my grandmother never bought that kind of stuff for us. She was, she was low income, most likely, and just trying to do best she could, raising her grandkids and her kids that were still living there with her. Because, back in the day, they had like 20 kids. So my mother was actually pregnant at the same time as my grandma. But, so she couldn't buy us like those fancy things that other kids were eating. And I wanted a cake. I'm a kid. I'm like, why does that child get to get cakes and I don't? So I stole their cake, which was extremely bad of me. But no kid is perfect, okay? So I got a paddling, I think, from that. And you best believe I never stole a cake again. And I live to tell about it. I'm going to be okay. I'm not in therapy for that paddling, by the way. I mean, it did not ruin me. I don't know where people are coming from. They need to learn the difference between abuse and discipline. Because I knew every time I got a whooping, I knew exactly why I was getting it. And I do not blame my parents, especially once I got kids myself. I understood why a whooping is sometimes necessary. But yeah, it's like we need to like get rid of the rap music that is so like, isn't like, just like these deaths are senseless, like killing children and things, stupid stuff is happening. People are killing each other over arguments. It's just dumb. It's ridiculous. Because you argue about something or you have some road rage. Like, you're literally taking someone's entire life away. You don't have that power to do that. There's no words. Like, it's not allowed. You just shouldn't get to do that. Like, that's BS to me. Like, you're not God. You don't get to take someone's entire life because you all disagreed on something. It's stupid. It's really crazy. Like, it's like, this is the world we're living in, and you all wonder why the kids are out of control, because the adults are out of control. I don't even leave my house anymore. I don't go anywhere. If I hear that there's a big crowd doing something, I don't even go, because I'm like, there's going to probably be a mass shooting. I'm traumatized from trying to parent my children, and they're running amok, no matter how hard you try to raise them. Like, we be doing so much, man. I've been homeschooling my kids since they were born. Whether they were in public school or homeschool. Before they could talk, I was homeschooling. I'm always teaching them stuff. Before my older sons went to school, they could both read. They knew their colors, numbers. Like, they knew a lot of things. Actually, I don't know if they couldn't read, but they knew like their alphabet. They knew like a lot of stuff. Like the basics, numbers, shapes, colors, blah, blah, blah. My second set of children, of course, were born around COVID time, so you know how that goes. So they are behind a little bit, but their dad and I, even with us not being together, we co-parent. But when one of us has them, whoever has them, we are doing some lesson time with them. We call that, learning stuff that we learn homeschool. I call it lesson time. And they actually love it. The little ones do, because they get to spend time with mom and dad. And I'll upload some videos, probably on my other channel, so you all probably won't know it's me. But yeah, I'll just upload some videos to kind of show you all like some of the stuff we do for lesson time. But yeah, I mean, I promise y'all, like, a lot of parents, we're just really trying, and we are really tired. And people just want to punish us for having children. Like, it's awful. And the crazy thing too is people don't realize that everything that you do to these children, it will affect you too. It's sad we have to tell people that just so they can act like a human towards children and other parents who are struggling to raise these children. But it will affect you also, if that helps at all, to help you stop making bad choices such as trying to throw parents into jail. Because a lot of people don't know, because they've been told wrong, or it used to be a certain way. But the younger generations are the ones who fund the Social Security and the Medicare, and pretty much everything else that this country does. It's going to be our children. And it's so interesting because the people that don't have kids, you're basically just consuming resources from the planet. You aren't really replacing it with anything because you didn't have children. You didn't raise another generation to come up behind you and replace you and help the next help the old folks out. You didn't. You opted out of it. You skipped out of it. You skipped out. You're being lazy. Whatever you're doing with yourself, selfish. And then you want to sit back on top of that and try to judge the people who actually are putting in the work and sacrificing and raising children, because we love children and we want a family. And you're like trying to make us be the bad guy, because that's how warped America is. Meanwhile, other countries are paying they're paying their citizens to have children. They're incentivizing them. They're investing in their children. And you wonder why they're having less issues, like school shootings, carjackings. They don't even, I mean, some countries don't, some of these civilized countries don't even allow guns in the country as a whole. Their maternity leave is better. Everything's better. So all the social programs, everything is just better. When I lived in Europe, I paid for my child's daycare based off of, my oldest son was born in Belgium. His daycare was based off my income. And they knew I was a single mother, so once I got a raise, they did something so that my amount wouldn't go up, so I could continue to pay at the lower rate, because they were trying to help me. And that's humanity. That's humanity. Like, why are you making my life harder? I don't know. Like, if you want people to just stop having kids, we can do that. My children, I'll just tell them don't have kids. I mean, why? Why should you? America doesn't appreciate them. Let's just let the human race end. We don't appreciate kids. We don't appreciate humanity. We don't appreciate continuing the race. Let's just stop having children and let the world just burn. Everyone will just die off eventually, because there's no new children coming up behind us. We can do that. I mean, my children can grow up and I'll be good. I really don't even give a shit anymore. I had no clue when I was having my children that this world would be the way it is. I had no clue how hard it would be to raise children in this country. Like, no one tells you these things. It's like you just doing it because you just have this idea of, like, I want a family. I love children. I want to have children. I want a baby. You know, I want to spend time. I want my kids to come back home when they're adults with my grandkids, and I teach them how to farm or do things with them like my grandma did with me. Like, that's what you dream about. And then you fast forward 20 years and it's like, lock the parents up. In the land of the free, we are locking up parents because our kids are holding people up at gunpoint and we don't know what to do. They don't know what to do with them. They just keep making bad choices over and over and over. And I'm not really concerned. I'm pretty sure my children will never be those kids, but I can't say never say never. But even when my son was running the streets and losing his damn mind for a year, he did not do things that really, he didn't do things that would have bothered us because he wasn't underage. He was over 18. He was 18. So even if he was doing that, it would have had nothing to do with us because we did not know where he was. He didn't want us to know where he was because he was too busy breaking the rules and breaking laws and doing shit he knew we would not agree with. Like most teenagers do. I know when I was a teenager, I stopped telling my parents stuff because I knew they wouldn't agree with it. Duh. But yeah, like, I know that this will probably never apply to me, but because I have compassion and empathy for others, I'm going to share my voice and show my support to parents who are really struggling. Because I'm blessed that my children's fathers are there. I'm blessed that some of the choices my parents made put us in a different tax bracket, like a higher one. I have options. I know it's most likely not going to be me or my children. It's not going to affect us. But the fact that anyone is saying this is ridiculous to me. Is inhumane. It's like, why is every solution for America lock people up? Like animals, just throw us in cages. Like sometimes, if they're acting like animals, yeah, but if it's just parents who don't have any clue where their child is, because you can't, common sense is you can't watch our kids 24/7. Things are expensive. How are we knowing, like, you just expect us to have an alarm system or something? Like, how do we know our child is sneaking out the window or whatever? That's why they're sneaking. And that's why they're doing what most people did at that age. Sneaking out the window, going to be bad with their kids. But like with us, because we're good parents, our son was not doing that until he turned 18. Because then he knew we really didn't have any control over him. But under that age, though, he was not out in the streets doing whatever, because we were raising him the best we could. But there was a time, actually under 18, there was a time my son was out later than he should have been. That's when he went to go live with his dad. I'm keeping it completely unfiltered for you all so I can help other parents and speak to people who don't have children and just try to have a voice and explain, like, the racism needs to end. It's not going to help our country. It's not helping it. It never helped it. It's not going to help it. We are just more and more divided by the minute. And a lot of people are saying lock the parents up because they feel like it's black people's problem and that it won't affect them. And they low-key probably want all black parents in jail so that they can have slavery again, because this country doesn't seem to know how to survive without it, because it's like an ignorant-ass government. So we don't get the, like, investing in people that you need, who's the backbone of the society, is what will reap you the benefits. A return on your investment. It's not very big because we don't invest in anything except war and jails and prisons. But yeah, it's just a lot, y'all. It's a lot. I know I'm gonna be breaking this video up in pieces because it's like very long. But the next thing I wanted to talk about was the Donald Trump lashing out at Joe Biden as he denies election fraud allegations. And there you go. The next thing I wanted to talk about was this video here, where this guy is saying that, and he has a huge platform. He said Gen Z can't read and millennials won't let it go. Why would we let it go? Why would we be letting this go? Why would we just be like, oh, okay, you can't read, yay. You need to get offline and teach somebody how to read. Like, Gen Z has internet. It's so weird. They grew up with computers and they're horrible with technology. Like, how do you do that? They're on there so much they don't know how to read. My child's school actually sat there in our faces, parents' faces on parent night, parent teacher conference night, or whatever the hell it was, back to school night. And they told us they're not going to teach the kids handwriting. They don't teach the kids. You don't teach them how to read through phonics. They're now using sight words, which is extremely ignorant. And they were like, they're already taking cursive out of the schools. That's been gone for probably like over a decade, if not longer. And then they're saying that they don't need to teach kids how to write, really, because they just use devices all the time. So now the muscles in their hands on top of that are weakening. Is like, this cannot be my life. Let me read this article really quickly by this one father, because, Lord, I typed in America doesn't like children. And I got this article first. It's it's with medium.com. I'm actually an author on this site. I love this site. You can write and just get your voice out there. So I'm going to read this. It's an 8-minute read. Then I'm going to shut this video down and start another one. But let's just go. So this says, does America hate children? Why is it so difficult to raise kids in the USA? He wrote this in 2021, like basically a year after the pandemic. So raising kids in America is hard. I know because I tried and I had to leave. Today, my daughter is far better off in France than she ever was in any of the 3 U.S. states that she lived in before crossing the Atlantic with me. How hard is it in America? Well, I had a far easier time in France as a partially employed single father who could not speak the local language than I did in America, where I had a partner, family, and money. Today, I speak French, I have help, and I have resources, and the comparison is, well, just not comparable. In France, my child eats nutritious food every day at school. She has an excellent education in a private school for a very low cost. She has access to a plethora of activities and cultural experiences, and the society in general considers her to be a precious resource. Anytime my daughter needs to go to the doctor, I never have to worry if I can afford it. In America, my child was competing for resources in an attempt to thrive. She had no choice but to go to public schools where the food was abhorrent and some of the children unstable. There was a real lack of affordable extracurriculars and, of course, very shaky health care. In America, I had to pay anywhere between $700 to $1,200 per month, depending on the location, for childcare, just so that I could go to work. When she was old enough to go to elementary school, I still had to pay several hundred a month to have
fully
her
charged
covered.
Battery fully charged. Unplugged charger.
I still had to have several hundred a month to have her covered from the end of the school day until I got off from work, which was usually well after 6 p.m., which is awful. Like, why is your kid away from you for so many hours in a day, per day? In France, childcare is free starting at 3 years old, and I paid €2.50 per day to keep her at school until 6:30 p.m., which is more than enough time to leave work around 5 p.m., grab a drink, and then pick her up. I'm not sure what grab the drink is. I guess it's happy hour. Why the stark contrast? To me, it's obvious. There is a profound difference of priorities, and that's really all it comes down to. America does not prioritize children or families. In France, children are important, whereas in America, they are not. A great example of this can easily be seen in a recent post on Twitter by Robert Reich, which I actually love him, who asked a very simple and important question. He put, Norway spends about $30,000 per child on early child care. Finland spends $23,000, Germany $18,000. The U.S. spends $500 per child. Okay, deadbeat guys and incels, there you go. Single black moms are not hitting it rich, just getting rich off welfare because you guys are so remedial. It's just something you throw out there. Everybody knows this is not true. It is a question worth asking. If the U.S. isn't even paying enough per year to buy an iPhone, how can we expect the future of America to be bright? The responses to this tweet by many were just appalling and yet not surprising at all. Here are some of the gems. America can't spend money on children because it's too busy protecting the world from itself. And the president said, but Robert, how much do those socialists, so they're writing back to Robert Reich in his facts that he wrote, this is their responses. But Robert, how much do those socialist paradise countries spend on defending their children? How can they sleep at night knowing that there isn't a $700 billion per year arsenal keeping them safe? It's all about priorities. That's wonderful. So that's the first thing you go with, is the priorities are to keep the guns safe, or to keep guns and invest in weaponry. But you wonder why kids are carjacking people at 2 a.m. because they're as obsessed with guns as you are. And then the next person said Norway has money for its kids and medical care, etc., because it doesn't spend a fraction of what the U.S. does on its military. Apples and oranges. I'm exhausted. Okay. Despite what we Americans were taught as kids and what has been pounded into our minds via Hollywood, America is not preventing the free world from the big bad boogeyman of authoritarianism, and they really are not. Actually, America has done more damage to democracy in the 21st century than it has done to preserve it, which is why it was just listed as a backsliding democracy. And not only that, America goes to countries to start wars to steal their resources. They destabilize countries on purpose to benefit from the destabilization of said countries, such as Haiti, Mexico, and Cuba, just other countries. Like, people have to actually do their research, and because public schools are such a joke, we don't learn the truth at all. So everyone's running around spewing nonsense and having no clue what their country really does to the rest of the world. So it's like, yeah, we basically, it's like the one guy said, I can't remember who it was, I think it was Malcolm X, and he was like, America will, like, the government will give you the alcohol and then throw you in prison for being drunk. I mean, it's like you create the problem and then you run and try to go save the day. What? Like, this is dumb. So what does a backsliding democracy mean? According to the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, IDEA, a backsliding democracy is a gradual but significant weakening of checks on government and civil liberties, all things that have been deteriorating since at least 2016. The IDEA report stated that a historic turning point came in 2020 to 21 when former President Donald Trump questioned the legitimacy of the 2020 election results in the United States. And according to the Secretary General of IDEA, the visible deterioration of democracy in the United States, as seen in the increasing tendency to contest credible election results, the efforts to suppress participation in elections, and the runaway polarization, is one of the most concerning developments. The violent contestation of the 2020 election, January 6th, without any evidence of fraud, has been replicated in different ways in places as diverse as Myanmar, Peru, and Israel. Good old Israel, where we are right now 3 years later. In other words, America is becoming increasingly authoritarian. Yep. Throw all the parents in jail at every cost for every little thing. That's the answer to everything. Just throw everybody in jail. And setting the example for would-be depots around the world. This is bad. But it is also ironic, considering that many Americans believe that American children should be deprived because the U.S. is too busy protecting the entire planet from the very thing that it is actually now contributing to. What makes this argument even more inane is that the European countries are just fine taking care of themselves. And in fact, in the wake of the Trump administration, the European Union has been actively pursuing its own defenses. Not to mention, they also added Africa to their G summit, so let that sink in and try to figure out why they're doing that. Everyone is slowly backing away from America because they're seeing where America's headed. And instead of anyone getting a clue, instead of just trying to choose a political party like it's a football team, everyone's just shouting at each other from across the aisle and saying the most stupid things with no real thought, just emotion. Let's lock parents up and throw away the kid, and that's going to save the world. That's going to save democracy. So anyways, Italy, Germany, Spain, the United Kingdom, and France are consistently ranked as being amongst the most powerful militaries in the world. And furthermore, both the UK and France have nuclear arsenals. Recently, the EU has been taking active steps toward unifying its forces to establish a strong global strategic presence that is independent of alliances with the USA. When I tell you everyone is trying to get away from America because they can see the crazy, they can see the collapsing of it, and it's literally imploding within itself, I'm not playing, and this is coming from a military veteran. In her most recent State of the Union address, EU President Ursula von der Leyen called for the formation of a united European military force. This was followed up with support from the Italian president. Not long after, France entered into a deal with Greece for creating a joint naval force. In other words, Europe doesn't trust America anymore, and so they certainly aren't sleeping well at night because the USA is protecting them. And so the argument that American children can't be compared to European children because the EU doesn't have to worry about defense is just silly. America doesn't need help from Europe. We should remember the entire reason the U.S. was founded was rejection of the European way of life. So when quote-unquote experts like Reich start using comparisons to European nations to argue how badly the U.S. is doing, you can't help but laugh out loud. He's arguing in favor of socialism. Wow, socialism, a four-letter word. I've actually heard this a lot. America shook off the oppression of the old world, only to heroically go back nearly 10 centuries later and save it from a tyrant. People who believe this should be aware of a few points. First, the United States of America was able to defeat the British Empire, not Europe, because France helped them win, and the Netherlands helped them pay for it. It's also important to note that the American Revolution was not against the entirety of Europe. Second, the concept of democracy was actually born in Europe. Athens was the first known democracy in the world, and many of the principles of modern democracy are based upon the ideas and teachings of prominent European scholars and philosophers. While Americans love to consider themselves as the greatest democracy of all time, that title probably is still in Rome. Yes, America has become very powerful and influential, but the Roman Empire remained the dominant force in the world for many centuries. The jury is still out regarding America. It should also be noted that when the USA rebelled against the Republic of Great Britain, not a dictatorship. The first Parliament of Great Britain was created in 1707. By the time 1776 rolled around, the founders of the American Revolution were rejecting a limited democracy, not an autocrat. Furthermore, while many Americans like to pride themselves as the crafters of the first real democratic constitution, that title actually goes to England itself, who created the first Bill of Rights in 1689, while the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth created a full democratic constitution right about the same time as the USA. Third, there are no socialist nations in the European Union. The countries most discussed as socialists are Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and Finland. These are, in fact, capitalist mixed economies. However, they all have a strong social welfare system. This is not economic socialism. It is taking care of people who need help so that society doesn't collapse. Let me read that again. This is not an economic socialism. It is taking care of people who need help so that society doesn't collapse. What do you all see happening right now? Yeah. So your selfishness in your world of me, and you pretending like we don't all need each other for this country to be successful is exactly what's making this world, this country implode within itself and collapse. It is collapsing as we speak. Finally, it's important to know that the American Revolutionary War was not fought against the Scandinavian countries, and furthermore, it was not a war against socialism or liberal progressivism. And for the record, Great Britain played an important role in defeating Nazi Germany in World War II. Children aren't a luxury, they are the future. I don't have any toddlers. Why should I be paying for them at all? Oh, that's so sweet. This state may pay that much. I personally spend much more. Stop expecting the state to raise your children and do it your damn self. Oh, okay. I didn't know people were raising my kids for me. Thank you. Honestly, I don't mind supporting the intelligent children. That would bring good change to our country. However, there are more unless children. I think he meant to say useless, so even he can't spell. So I guess he would fall into the category of one of those useless children, by the way. But anyways, however, there are more useless children that are not worth supporting. And since we can't allocate money to specific children, I'd rather just keep my money. Wow. That's awful. That's how Americans talk about children. Okay, so it's not complicated. If children aren't nurtured and raised well, they can turn into dysfunctional people or worse, criminals. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, let's keep going. On the other hand, if children are taken care of and if children are taken care of and educated well, the society can progress. This is why every single modern society either has a robust compulsory formal education system or strives to establish one. The last tweet where Mr. Justin states there are more useless, typo correct from unless, children that are not worth supporting may seem terrible, but it's not. It's absolutely evil. Unfortunately, this gentleman isn't rare, as many Americans believe that only certain children are worth investing in, while the others should be readily discarded and left to their own fate. And they should ask China how that worked out. I believe Hitler had a similar viewpoint. This is one of the major differences today between America and every country in the EU. No matter where you go, children matter, which is not the case in the USA. And I literally knew that at like 21 years old. I have no clue how I knew, maybe because I'm psychic and I have like these innate extra psychic abilities, but I just knew. Or maybe I'm just really intelligent and have very high IQ and I'm just picking up on things around me. I have no clue because no one told me for sure, but I could just tell the difference, like immediately from coming from Belgium back to America, that America hates kids. I believe that children are the future because they are. Like literally they are the future. But yeah, so of course not all of the tweets were as nasty and negative as the ones above. For each hardcore capitalist child discarded, there were at least one person who stood up for society's most vulnerable. Unfortunately, the number of tweets echoing the sentiments seen in the tweets above were so plentiful that I couldn't even try to read them all. And let's not forget that over 70 million people voted for the political party who pushes this type of thinking. I'm sorry, I can't really see these pictures. Okay. I don't know what they're saying, so I'll have to look at that later. So the sentiment in America of rugged individualism is noxious for many reasons, but what it has done to how America views children is just disgusting. It may be hard to hear, but the truth is that America is just no place to raise kids. And he's right. So yeah, parents, hang in there, okay? I don't know what to tell you. You know, just get some land and disappear. I think there was a homesteading movement happening a few years ago, and it might still be happening. I don't really see it as much on YouTube, but I'm pretty sure it's still probably happening. Hopefully, because I think like a lot of people who just want to have children because they love children, we just feel like we have to just go move out into the country somewhere and just disappear until our children until our children turn 18, then we are allowed to re-enter society and not be martyred for daring to like these little human beings that allow this earth to continue with the human race. So yeah, let me know what you all think about this video. I would love to hear your feedback, and make sure to like, share, and comment below. And if you have any questions, throw them in the comments. I'll try to read them as I see fit because I have to raise my kids and work. And yeah, and I will talk to you all. I will see you in the next video. Bye.